What we're trying to do throughout Halt and Catch Fire is embed these characters with real humanity and tell stories that resonate with universal values and things that people can really identify with.
How many of you desire to be computer engineers?
The relationship between Cameron and Joe is really fascinating.
Glad you could join us.
Joe sees a lot of what he sees in himself in Cameron.
Tell me one thing that will be true about computers 10 years from now. You.
He thinks she is brilliant.
Computers will be connected together across one network with a standard protocol.
Like phone lines.
Obviously, phone lines.
It's really simple. He likes her. What's your name? There's something about her
Cameron.
he's never seen before.
Cameron how?
She sees a vision of what computers are capable of, the same way he sees that vision.
Computers could be more. They should be.
For Cameron, she's intrigued by Joe. I don't think she's ever met anyone like him. He represents possibilities she's never known.
What is this anyway? Some kind of job interview?
Maybe, maybe not. Depends on you.
Joe's different. She doesn't see men that look this gorgeous and well put together and sort of the IBM type come into her classroom.
I think they're both very sexy, appealing people who, are not meant to have a sexual relationship. It's sort of the absolute wrong thing, but they just can't stay apart. Our introduction to Gordon says quite a bit, and he's phoning it in. He's not somebody who is activated in his own life.
He's completely defeated. He's at rock bottom. He's pretty much given up on life.
When we first meet Donna and Gordon,
Come on.
we come upon them at a time of a struggle. They've had a professional failure together. They're still trying to get over and figure out how to pick up the pieces and move on. We see them both a little bit frayed with each other.
A16.
When Gordon meets Joe, he's sort of put all of those ambitions to bed.
Fantastic.
He didn't think he had another shot coming down the pike.
It isn't till Joe throws that article down in front of him, and it almost makes him mad in a way that's, I take it at home. I've taken it my whole life. Please don't make me take it from you, too.
I'm not in the mood. Why don't you go blow dry your hair some more?
Gordon can do something that Joe can't do, and that's design this machine.
Looks back down at the article, and that's the first spark in Gordon.
Joe McMillan, we spoke on the phone earlier. Do you mind if I borrow Gordon for 1 second? He sees something in Gordon that is so unique. I think he sees a man who has the same sense of fight. Reverse engineer an IBM PC with me.
Why? What would be the point?
Because I want to build a machine that nobody else has the balls to build.
Let's turn this thing inside out.
Now Gordon's excited. This is the first time he's ever got his hands on the metal in a long, long time. This is Gordon's element. This is where he works best. This is what really excites him. This is what makes him love his life. It makes him feel like he has self-worth.
He wants Gordon to know that, you could do this. You need to do this. You've got a gift. You've got a talent. You've got a machine in you that can change the world. That's the machine I want to make, and that's the machine that you need to be making.
The IBM PC run by us.
I told you. It's a treasure map.
It's IBM.
Bosworth here.
Hi, John. We've got a problem.
Gordon just can't really wrap his finger around Joe's plan.
How the hell did IBM find out about this?
I told them.
Gordon can't take the risks that Joe takes, and he's taken him on this ride, which means he's taken him along these risks.
We legitimize the project?
This is your brilliant idea to save our hides, Barry?
No.
Joe needs people to sign up.
Actually, it was McMillan's.
He needs people to sign up for the long haul of this, to make this machine, and not just make a machine, but to make the best machine, to make the machine that no one else has the balls to make.
Where are we going to find this new engineer?
What?
Great.
She's prickly, but she's not an idiot. If somebody's offering her an opportunity to build a computer from scratch and be the head engineer on it in the middle of college, as a woman in a world that's going to be pretty hard for her to claw her way to the top in, and with her attitude, it's going to be pretty hard to stay in, she needs to take it. That's every engineer's dream.
When IBM Legal comes at the end of episode 1, that's a game changer and a reckoning, particularly for Gordon and Cameron, who got dragged into this not fully understanding what they were going to be dealing with.
This computer, this business is the most important thing in the world to Joe. This fight is the most important thing in the world to him. He is scared out of his mind about what these guys are gonna say to him or what they're gonna do. He knows how hard they fight. He fights as hard as they do. It's that feeling of, my life has just begun. This is it. This is what I live for.
This story is grounded in the reality of 1983 and everything around it that's going on.
This is a very specific moment in time in a very specific place in the United States.
You had this tech money coursing into Dallas. You also had old oil money.
While the 80s were happening, we thought it was awful.
It takes place in a moment where the world was shifting.
It was a political time.
We didn't like the president. We didn't like the clothes.
You look at it now and it seems foreign, but it really was only 30 years ago.
Hey!
Hi, Mom.
The Clarks are a family where Donna has been expected to carry a disproportionate burden.
Kisses.
She's working, but she's also having to raise the kids. And I really think that was the promise of feminism kind of gone wrong that a lot of the moms were living through in the 80s and into today.
The way I do relate to this the most is that I look like my mom. I look like my mom when she had kids. It's really trippy, actually.
Do you think you could at least get me the salt?
You'll see lots and lots of embroidery in her blouses and texture. I grew up in the 80s, and walking through the Clark house, Donna and Gordon's house, was a trip. I mean, just seeing the color palette of the refrigerator and the accessories, that yellow.
Heavily saturated carpets on the floor, a fun chance to use some wallpapers on the wall surfaces, especially in the bedroom, as well as the fantastic 1970s wood paneling, which so much of America knows and loves. The challenge for *Halt and Catch Fire* is that the crux of the show takes place in a computer firm, which is, at the start, firmly rooted in the 1970s, not the 1980s. So we had the great fortune to be able to straddle the line of the decades.
Like, I had some numbers run. Looks like this PC business is going to cost us upwards of a couple $1 million just to get in the door.
Right around our time period, it was a bit of the 70s that was wrapped into what was starting to come into the 80s.
If we think of like the fashion from the 70s, it was really from 75 to 85.
Gordon is stuck in the past. Donna is more in the present without being fashion forward.
The visual kind of style of the show was always to kind of bring the analog and the digital together visually.
You found a needle in a haystack.
And we thought the best way to do it was use warm tones and browns for the analog world and these crisp grays and blues for the office world.
The new is metal, the old is wood.
When Chris and I came up with this idea for the show, we really honed in on this idea of a contemporary period show, where there was some stuff in the 80s that could drop right into today and you wouldn't even notice. And yet there's some stuff that you look at and go, there's no way we're ever going back.
One of these last times of optimism when America was strong and great, and so there's some nostalgia to go back to it, but there's also something to be gained from shining an honest light on some of these things.
So we're good. Perfect.
I think I really blithely ignored the gender question for a long time in my own life and also on this show, and I kind of wanted to pretend that it wasn't a factor and that they were people before they were women. And I actually think that's one of the great things about the writing is that it doesn't overemphasize that that part of them. I think they really are people first, and then they're put in a world where their gender matters more than they'd like it to. Mackenzie read an article a couple years ago that said that there were more women getting computer science degrees in 1984 than there are now. So I think we all look at this and think it's how quaint, and these problems that we fixed, and it's blatantly untrue. The math and the data and the statistics are going in the opposite direction of what I think we might all assume that they are. And so this idea of access, who gets to build the future, is even more imperative now than maybe it seemed in the era of our show. So I think it's really important to show women being ambitious, intelligent, and working in this world, because there are plenty of women doing it, and we need more different kinds of people creating the technology which is the way we live our life. If we don't have that diversity, we won't have that diversity in the technology. There's all kinds of things it won't allow for.
Lee, Joe has gone through so much through these first 3 seasons. Can you talk about how you've seen that character evolve and how that's been for you as an actor?
It's a huge reminder that, like in life, there's so much that's outside of your control, right? There's just so much that's out of your hands. When I think about Joe that walked into Cardiff Electric, I think about this, young, fearless, uncompromising person who sees a vision of where this technology can take the culture, right? And he wants to be a part of it. I mean, it's just the most important thing in the world to him. But then life happens, right? And the failures come, and that has impact on who you are and what you bring, the work you do, and what you're interested in doing. The failures are just a part of it, right? And they wear the mark on him too. Like, they do the damage. That's what I love so much about what you guys have written, is that he's not the same person who kind of strolled into Cardiff Electric ready to, take what he wants and push people around and burn it down to the ground if he needs to. Now it's like we see someone who values something different than that. He values the people, because there's more there. Listen, I could go on and, these guys have heard me kind of go on and on about Joe, so I'm not going to.
I love hearing it.
Yeah, me too.
I think what interested me about Cameron in season 3 was this idea of like getting everything you thought you wanted and it's still not fulfilling you or making you happy, and the reality of what you wanted being very different from the dream of what you wanted. And yet having a responsibility. I mean, Cameron's, biggest leaps over the course of the show are just becoming a mature human who can interact with people and take care of them and see other people's feelings, and realizing that she has this responsibility to all these people who she's asked to go on this journey with her, and she can't just burn it down and walk away. So I feel like that's sort of where she started in the season, and then the devastation of mutiny and stuff was obviously this thing that she grew, but I think it was so much more about like she's just this orphan character, and loyalty means more to her than any other quality in the world, and when that loyalty is pierced or betrayed, it like shakes her, and she chose this family and found this family, and they collectively said no to her. And I think that how she reacted after that, and what we're still sort of getting into in season 3, is like just narrowing the scope of your vision when you've been hurt, and how to recover from that and still be a human being.
Toby.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Hi.
Yes.
Hi. It's on. Is it? Are you
Yes.
good? Okay. We're
Yes.
good. This is great. As sort of a wise father figure to so many characters on this show, no, I'm really interested in how Bosworth's sort of strained relationship with his own son, and then further in this season, his strained relationship with his sort of adoptive daughter. How did you handle those sort of parental difficulties?
Well, I mean, it's in the character they wrote. It's this guy who was taken from, you know, being a businessman in Texas to this new world. I mean, he really was transported physically to a new place and emotionally to a new place that he's never been before. So it's uncharted territory, reconnecting with his son, and then sort of finding this Cameron beast and sort of interacting with her and you know, feeling very close and paternal to her and you know, I don't know. It's a pretty unusual story, I think, that a guy, especially in that time, it's not now, it was a long time ago when guys who were that age didn't really sort of have a second act and a third act, you know, emotionally in their lives and definitely not emotionally, but, you know, also in their business lives too. So it's pretty richly drawn, I think.
I think this idea of Gatsby is very interesting when thinking about Joe, because it's all an illusion, really, isn't it? It's kind of creating this, you know, this party where the most interesting people can come, because you're not actually that interesting yourself. I don't want to say that he's not bright, because I think he's very bright, but he's not as bright as the people he surrounds himself with. You know, I think that's fascinating that he pulls these people who are smarter than him, more capable than him, around him. It's kind of a, you know, it's like a, I wouldn't even know if he does it intentionally. I just think it's like it's the thing that he, it's the magic that he brings, is that the idea of that party, you know.
Well, maybe the smartest thing about him.
I was going to say, the thing I love about Joe McMillan is he articulates the purpose of the technology better than anybody. We all read the Steve Jobs biography as research when we started the show. And really, I was like, jury's out on whether Steve Jobs, for me, for a long time, I was like, I don't know that I like buy it. He wasn't a programmer. He didn't build anything. And at a certain point, I realized after I met some of the tech people that did build the products, and you meet them and you realize that they're geniuses, they're brilliant, but they never could have imagined or articulated this big, massive, beautiful goal, a touchscreen iPhone or the iPod. Like, these are massive, beautiful ideas that are about people and the way people's brains work. They're things that don't exist. And Joe is the megaphone for those ideas, and he speaks so beautifully about it all the time. And I think that's one of his great talents, and I've learned to really appreciate what that skill means in the world.
Hey, what's up? I'm Mark O'Brien. I play Tom Brendan on AMC's *Halt and Catch Fire*. My favorite moment this year, I think there's a nice little scene I did with Mackenzie Davis, where we meet at a grocery store, and it was kind of awkward between us. And it was like, we shot like 1 a.m. It was freezing cold on a Friday night, and yeah, it was really good. And I'm pushing carts in the scene, like that's what I'm doing. And in real life, I used to push carts when I was like 16. I got a job at a grocery store. So it was like doing the same thing. And I was like, I haven't pushed these carts, because everyone was like trying to reset the carts. But I was like, I got it. And everyone was like, how do you know these carts so well? I was like, well, I used to do this when I was like 16. I hadn't done it since. And when I was 16, I used to be like, maybe one day I'll be an actor. And then I was doing it in a scene, which was kind of cool. I feel like it should be something that Toby says, because Toby Huss, who plays John Bosworth, is constantly saying things that are kind of similarities to what's in the script. What was it he said one day? You can knit a sweater with your tears, I think he said, which was never in the script.
Can we turn the heat back on now? Oh, come on, get yourself a new wool skirt, milady.
That's a pretty solid line. That might be my favorite.
It's a show about computers in 1983 in Dallas, Texas, and some people who are trying to make an awesome computer.
Nobody ever got fired for buying an IBM, right? What a fearful way to do business.
There's no certain idea of what that is, so we're trying to figure it out. It's actually really simple. We're just trying to make a cool computer.
I'm not in the mood. All right, why don't you go blow dry your hair some more?
This is a time when the idea that personal computers would be valuable to people, that people would actually want a personal computer, a computer in their homes to help them live their lives, play video games, teach their kids how to read, to do their home finances on, to do any of the number of things that we use computers for now. The idea is so fresh and such a risk, actually. So there's an obligation to get it right and to be a part of, you know, what is going to be a huge cultural revolution. That's what Joe sees.
Hey! What are you doing? Why are you doing this?
When I say to Gordon that the computer's not the thing, it's the thing that gets us to the thing, I think he understands that. It's not about the machine. It's about what happens when we make a machine that's cheaper, faster, and smaller, and one that everyone wants to buy.
You love talking down to me, don't you?
Look, there are 1,000 other engineers we can get, preferably one you haven't bedded down with.
So I think about Joe like a machine. He will complete the program put before him. He will be fully compatible. He will operate on all systems. He will remove obstacles. He will problem solve. He will add value. But there are bugs in that machine. There are flaws in the program.
You need me, otherwise you wouldn't be here.
That's where I find him most interesting, because he's not a computer. The computer may resemble him because, you know, as one of the creators of this machine, it's impossible not to imprint a little bit of your soul onto the functions of the computer. But Joe's not a computer. I mean, he's a person who needs to work well with others. And Joe, he can be a bastard.
This takes off, I write my own ticket, but if it goes wrong, I'm a college dropout repairing VCRs for $3.25 an hour, so forgive me for weighing my options.
See? Now you're thinking like a professional.
Hello, I'm Cooper Andrews from the show *Halt and Catch Fire*, and I play Yo-Yo Engberg. One of my favorite moments, I don't know if it's the favorite moment, but something I really enjoyed is when all the coders are together and we're eating these donuts as Donna's trying to reach in and she's trying to get past us. And I think I ate 6 donuts. And the thing is, yes, I know, like, oh, don't really eat the donut. Except the thing was, they kept doing, I was set up in this shot where it was very obvious I was gonna eat the donut each time. Like, you can tell, I mean, because, you know, I can be like this, oh, what's up, guys? But the donut was kind of, it kind of reflected how I did every single eating scene. Like, the other day, I had like 3 apples, and, you know, I mean, apples are big, I keep well, and then, I don't want to say the eating scenes are my favorite, but like folding the pizza in half and then having 2 at once and talking with my mouth full so it was obvious. That pretty much goes for the cheese whiz scene last year in season 1. I really was eating the cheese whiz and so good.
What's up? I'm Lev. That's Kenneth, but everyone calls him Yo-Yo.
It's probably one of Gordon's lines. There's a scene where the school of his kids they call up mutiny, and it's because he decided to have his buddy pick the kids up from school, and Randy Havens, who plays the guy picking them up, you know, or you know, you can just imagine his Stan with his, you know, his giant mustache. So I actually had a hard time not laughing.
Pizza deliveries for a week, if not a single word.
A month, plus soda.
Deal, little rats.
You can see like this, I don't know, like this, this adolescent fear in his face of like getting caught. And my favorite line of mine was when I tell August, Lev, when I tell his character that he should make it so that the Jello is trying to kill a family, to poison them all, and his reaction was, I believe that was full acting, but I also think he took some mild offense to it.
The first computer I remember having a deep relationship with was my Nintendo, and video games play an interesting role in the evolution of this technology, especially for my generation, because we grew up with the video games, and then in high school we were able to, write our documents on, you know, an app where we could change the fonts, and you know, and then the next step, and then the next step, and the next step to where we are now, and everyone's got a phone in their pocket.
I remember it being very square and beige, and I have really distinct memories of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego and all those floppy disks, you know, and Oregon Trail, great game.
My first computer was the not the MacBook, but the iMac that had the colorful backs. And I remember it was my first one, and I got to define my personality. I had a turquoise back, and it just really drank the Kool-Aid for, you know, you are your computer. And I think I spent most of the time just using their speech system to write out like filthy things and then play them out loud in a computer voice.